Between the incredible rush of tides in the Kimberley inlets, there are hours at a time when the water is still and calm. And this is the best time to fish from the exposed sandbars. A dead mullet floating in the slight current attracts big fish.
Good fish.
In the morning, Malcolm has moved the boat to the edge of a gutter, and it's not long before the fish are on the bite. Bundi, a cattle dog, is as keen on fishing as Malcolm. She anticipates every move, watching the action from the bait board.
That's not a bad way to start the day.
Once the fish is netted, Bundi quickly loses interest.
There she is. Nice fish. Do you want to hop down? Here, you want to hop down? I'm going to put this fish here and just organise it. Here, come on, get out.
A barra has just taken the mullet.
There's a barramundi taking the bait now. What they do is they suck it. They don't have teeth. So they suck it, and you just got to wait and wait and be very patient. You might take out 100 metres of line before you strike. Still there? Just feel him. If I struck now, I'd lose the fish.
For fishermen in North Australia, this is the ultimate thrill. Warm weather, calm seas, and barramundi leaping high out of the water. A big predatory fish, the barramundi has no teeth. Research suggests that a barramundi can live for over 20 years, and its age can be calculated by counting growth rings on a scale under a microscope. On top of the gills is a razor-sharp edge. The fish uses this to cut the line as it leaps from the water, throwing its head from side to side. Many a fisherman has received deep lacerations from this razor edge.
He's on, he's on.
In parts of North Australia, commercial net fishing has decimated the barramundi population. Fortunately, here in the West Kimberley, the huge 10-metre tides prevent professional fishermen setting their nets. This protects the barramundi from over-exploitation. Adventure tourism and recreational fishing is the potential asset for the future of the Kimberley. Sharks are a constant nuisance.
Now that's what I don't want. Oh.
When Malcolm's away from home for months, there's no set time to eat. Meals are quickly organised when food's available. These small Primus burners produce intense heat, and within minutes the first serving's ready. Fish that cannot be released are always eaten.
More Australians would like to catch a barramundi than any other fish. I would call it an obsession, almost a religion here in North Australia. I think because it's such a regal-looking fish, and when you hook it, it comes out of the water throwing its head, and you can see the fish that you've got on the line, but quite often you don't actually land it. And if you are lucky enough to land a barra, beautiful eating fish.
In the Kimberley, when the crocodiles are exceptionally curious or aggressive, Malcolm suspends an old fishing net around the boat to protect him and Bundi during the night. If a crocodile attempted to climb into the boat, it would tangle in the net. Malcolm always sleeps in the boat in case the anchor drags with the rushing and rising tide. Bundy always tries to help.
That'll be good. It'll be good.
It's the dry season, but morning breaks through heavy, ominous cloud. The hot, humid conditions keep the barramundi on the bite.
It's about this time every morning. The tide's dropping, the sandbars are coming out, and the barra really come on the bite. Just when the current starts to drop down, I've got one on here now. Oh, it's a good fish. You got your salmon there, mate? Salmon, barra. It's all happening here again this morning. Oh, look at that. Isn't that a magnificent fish? Gonna have to go back. It's just too big for us to eat. You've got to go back in the water. Come on, here. Pull that. Get out of it, boy. Here. Here.
Some mornings, with the barra really active, their leaps are amazing. When the tide turns, it comes in as a fast trickle, building in minutes to an incredible surge of water. Few boats venture into this wilderness. The uncharted waters and huge tides deter most boat owners from exploring the Kimberley waterways. Another good time to fish is just at the start of the ebbing tide, before the current is too strong. Blue-nosed salmon is a common species, good eating and often caught at the end of the day. It's a change from barramundi for tea. The evening meal's always prepared before sundown. At first light, Malcolm's fishing again and hooks an estuary rock cod. The flesh is very tasty in fish cakes, but this one's just too big.
I don't quite know what I'm going to do with this. Just let it go. Have a look at the mouth on that. What a fish.
Leaving Walcott Inlet, the men motor for days, north along the coast to fresh fishing spots. When the winds are up, they beach the boat in a sheltered bay and wait for more favourable conditions. In these pristine waters, there's usually a feeder fish nearby. Schools of sand whitings swim in the shallows. Although small, whiting is splendid eating. Further north in the Prince Regent River, there's always a reliable supply of fresh water at the King's Cascades. Now a popular destination for adventure charter boats, it was at the base of these falls that American tourist Ginger Meadows was killed by a saltwater crocodile in March 1987. With the onset of the cooler, dry season, the water temperature's dropping and there are few fish on the bite. So it's on to another remote Kimberley waterway, the Sail River. The stark, rugged Kimberley gorges are full of surprises. Above the saltwater influence, a pocket of rainforest flourishes. Green and lush, very different from the harsh golden light of the sandstone cliffs. Only 50 metres from the rainforest, they beach the boat on the dropping tide. Between tides, the river's tranquil and there's ample time to flick a lure and pick up a fish or two for a feed.
Here we have one, bit of dinner. When we're out in the bush for weeks at a time, most of our main meal is fish on the hot coals and damper in the hot sand. Damper's pretty basic, just flour and water, touch of salt, knead it up for a couple of minutes, straight into the coals. There we are, over onto the wood there.
Beneath the charred skin is moist, delicious flesh.
knock all the sand off and the ash. Ready for a cup of tea.
It will be several days before the tide reaches this far upriver again. So it's cod cakes for tea. These extended boat journeys are impossible without extra fuel supplies. 6 months before the trip, Malcolm arranged for drums of petrol to be hidden on selected beaches by a charter boat operator. The most common fish in these waters is the trevally, and they're usually the first fish to attack a lure.
I'm continually amazed at how prolific the big trevally are up here. So what I'm doing today is tying this bamboo pole on the side of the boat. Going to run some short lines out here, some lures without hooks on them, so I can show you just how aggressive these fish are.
With the hooks removed, the fish are not injured in any way. This is every fisherman's dream, schools of big fish rushing at the lure. Some of the larger trevally drag the lure a metre or more sideways before releasing it. The days are warm and the tides are right, so it's on to Walcott Inlet to see if the barramundi are back on the bite. Late afternoon, they anchor in a small tidal creek, waiting for the rising tide. An inquisitive crocodile spots the dog. Crocodiles have been protected since 1971. These younger ones have never been hunted. They have little fear of humans and can be very dangerous. They're quite capable of climbing into the boat, and with its mouth open, this one's ready to attack.
This is why some nights we have to put the net up around the boat, because we get these very cheeky, very inquisitive crocs, and the dog doesn't even realise how close she is to getting taken. Just get her down. Come on, get off there.
Crocodiles can jump 2/3 of their body length out of the water to seize prey. The next morning, Malcolm's back on his favourite sandbar. He's been living on the boat for over a month, but the thrill of hooking a good fish has not diminished. There's only a limited time each day between the rush of the tides when the Barra cruise the shallow gutters. This is a really big barramundi.
What a beautiful fish. End of the day. Anyway, we've had enough fun. I'm exhausted. I had my fun and he got away, which is probably a good thing. Big fish.
At the close of a dull, cloudy day, the country glows gold with the last rays of the setting sun. After weeks in the boat, it's time to try a very different kind of fishing. So it's back to Derby and onto a Kimberley cattle station where Malcolm meets up with his mate Brett Nixon, a local pilot who spends months helicopter mustering wild cattle. This is the ultimate fishing adventure, heading into the roughest country in Australia, looking for water holes where probably no one's ever fished before. Only a helicopter could land in this rugged terrain. Malcolm has a lure in the water in no time.
This is about the third fish in as many casts. That's what the beauty of this pristine wilderness is all about. Just going along in a chopper, see a water hole like this, drop the line in, bang, bang, bang. Barramundi after barramundi. Down here in the water, for every fish that we catch, there's another 10 or 15 coming up and looking at the lure and going back. Keep a couple of these for a meal and let the rest go. Just get the hook ready, mate. This is a giant northern speargrass. It grows to about 3 metres plus in the wet season and makes great shade in the middle of the day.
Very little gear can be carried in a helicopter, but Malcolm does have 2 fishing lines on board, including his favourite Daiwa rod and reel, a landing net, and a small inflatable boat.
beautiful fish. From there to there, from the thumb to the little finger when you stretch it out on my hand is 25 centimetres. So that's 25 and 25 and about 7 or 8. So he's about 57, 58 centimetres long. So his size, legal size in Western Australia is 55 centimetres. So I'll keep him for dinner.
The boat's a big hit with Brett. A short hike to the other end of the waterhole's well worth the effort. These landlocked billabongs are connected to the salty estuaries when the barramundi and mangrove jack migrate upriver on the monsoonal floods.
It's a nice little mangrove jack. There he is. Good fighters, they always go down deep. You've got to be careful with the snags. They don't jump like the barra, they go in under the logs. So you've got to have a fairly tight line and be ready for them and get them straight out of those snags, otherwise you're going to lose your lure and everything else. But beautiful eating fish. Now that is just the most beautiful mangrove jack. Late afternoon light, the wind's dropping, the fish should be on the bite, except I can't move. All right, we go out in the middle here. One net. Oh, sinking. Eh? Good fish too. Well, that was really good fun, very relaxing, and on the way home I actually landed myself a very large mangrove jack. All I got to do now is get out of the dinghy. What a boat. What a boat. When we're travelling around in a helicopter, we can't carry our swag. So it's just a matter of organising a nice bit of sand. And I've got a sleeping sheet here to keep the mosquitoes off. Ah, that's beautiful.
By mid-morning, Malcolm's back in that boat again, with not a care in the world. Barramundi that migrate to the fresh water don't have the flavour of barra that live in the muddy salt water of the estuaries. They can't breed in fresh water, returning to the salt to spawn, where there's always microscopic food for the barramundi larvae. As the young ones grow, they gradually migrate upstream to the fresh water.
That would be the most awkward, useless boat I've ever owned in my life. One of the problems is that it sprung a leak And once you just get in there, can't move. All good fun though, because I got myself a very nice barramundi. How's that for lunch? There we are. Good fish. Oh.
The Kimberley is dissected by many streams and cascades still unexplored and unnamed. After a 30-minute flight, the men follow a rugged gorge downstream until they find a ledge flat enough to land the helicopter. Even Brett gets right into flicking a lure. What a special place. Clean, fresh water and small barra hitting the lure with every cast. In good conditions, barramundi grow quickly. These fish are around 2 years old. In 3 to 5 years, they'll change to females and migrate back to the salt water to spawn. And they're great fun on light gear. Just as they're about to head back, Malcolm lands a good fish. It's decided to release it rather than take it back to the station for dinner. It could go off in the heat. Days later, Malcolm's back on the road again, towing the boat 1,000 kilometres to Wyndham in the East Kimberley. It's now well into the cooler, dry season. The speargrass is yellowed and the boab trees, unique to this part of Australia, have lost their leaves to conserve moisture. The first rains are still months away. Launching the boat at Wyndham, they catch the outgoing tide and motor north through Cambridge Gulf to the waters of the Arafura Sea, heading for the Berkeley River. The East Kimberley coast is inhospitable and rugged. It's wild country. Near the mouth of the Berkeley River, Malcolm finds a feast.
How's that? Fresh oysters on the rocks. As many as you can eat.
Behind the boat, a cascade of pure fresh water. Oysters are plentiful in the mangroves too. Large clumps attached to the roots. just right for cooking.
The great thing about cooking them like this for a few minutes on the coals is the lids just pop open and inside a sweet, delicious cooked oyster. And I've got dozens of them here.
At the Berkeley River mouth, deep gutters form where the tidal waters rush past high sandbars. Small queenfish feed here in the back currents and eddies, and they're great fun on spinning gear. Even Bundi loves the action. The best fishing spots are at the top end of the Berkeley Gorge, one of the Kimberley's greatest natural wonders. The salt water meets the fresh at a rock bar, inundated at high tide. It's a great spot for barramundi. Surprisingly, the first fish Malcolm lands from the freshwater is a trevally. For the next few days, small barramundi are active. Then the fish go off the bite. So Malcolm decides to hike inland following the river, looking for good fishing holes. But first, the boat has to be positioned mid-river so it does not foul on the rocks at low tide. Bundi's eager to lend a hand. Her front foothold is remarkable. Let's have a replay. She locks the rope between her feet to get a better grip. With the boat well secured, the men set off along the banks of the Berkeley. Two hours later, they reach a rocky escarpment. A picture postcard spot. Ideal water to flick a fly. The fish are not big, but there are few places as beautiful as the headwaters of the Berkeley. In these inland waters, sooty grunter are plentiful. Cooked on the coals, they're an acceptable feed. The following day, late in the afternoon, barramundi are on the move. Malcolm works a lure down deep. As the last rays of the setting sun fire the gorge, Malcolm hooks something very big. When the fish breaks the surface, he realises it's a massive barramundi. The lure's barely holding. It's hooked by the lip, and he's lucky to net this mighty Berkeley barra.
Berkeley Barra. Oh. Oh, and the sun's just going down. We've been here since 6 o'clock this morning. Just moving him up there. The tide's coming in. I'll just get the dog off this rock because the crocodiles will be coming up with the tide. And that's one mighty fish. Oh. That fish should be well over 20 kilos. I'm not exaggerating it. It's very heavy. Trying to get it up here. Oh.
Every picture tells a story. Malcolm's keen to release the huge fish, a female capable of producing 30 million eggs per season. It's important to look after the breeders, so there'll always be the thrill of flicking a lure and watching a big barramundi leap high out of the water.
That was really a magnificent fish. Too big for us to eat. Let him go, swam away. Beautiful fish. Now I can go and have a feed, cup of tea and a good sleep.